As many of you know, I've been reading a lot of Christian fiction lately, but I've yet to try Christian romance, and that's mostly because I'm really afraid they're all going to be super corny and it's going to be impossible to find a good one. So I'm going to be reading 3 of the most popular Christian romance books out there to see if it's possible to find a really good one. When I'm done with each of these books, I'm going to be giving you my most brutally honest reviews and ratings so that you can know if they're worth trying or not. And even if it might not seem like it, I actually really hope I can find one I truly love because it would give me so much hope for this whole genre. So I felt like I couldn't really do a Christian romance reading video without at least trying one of Francine Rivers' books. She's obviously one of the biggest Christian writers out there, and most of her books are romance. I've read a few of her books before. Some of them I like, some of them I didn't like quite as much. But there is one that I've heard a lot about that I haven't tried yet, and that is The Masterpiece. This book is about 2 people who come from very different backgrounds and have very tumultuous pasts, but their paths converge somehow, and I'm assuming they fall in love, but they're such different people. I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for them, and I'm also excited to see how Christianity is somehow played out in this book. So I'm going to start with this one first. Something I feel like I can always really count on with Francine Rivers' books is that she's always going to have some really diverse, well-rounded characters. And so that's something I do like about this book thus far, and kind of what makes it different from a lot of romance books is that the main 2, like guy and girl, aren't like all there is to the book. There's like a bunch of people that I'm interested in learning more about. The main 2 characters have met, but like I said before, they're very opposite, and I'm kind of curious as to how they're going to eventually fall in love, because that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. So thus far, the Christian themes are basically just that the main girl is a Christian and she goes to church, but it doesn't really look like the guy is, which is another way that they're both pretty opposite. I am also excited to see where they go with that, and if anything more happens with the religion in the book. I think a big thing that I find corny or cringeworthy about Christian romance books, or even just romance books in general, is that they tend to be so overly dramatic. I also feel like there's a certain set of like tropes that romance books tend to use over and over again, so they all feel like the same thing. To me, it feels really hard to find one that's unique, and a lot of times I find that when you sprinkle Christian themes into that, it makes it almost a little bit worse, which sounds really bad, but I don't know, sometimes people take something that's already kind of corny and then they put Christianity over it, and it kind of like does Christianity bad, like it makes it look bad. I don't know, it's hard for me to explain, but I just know that I have such a hard time finding romance books that I like in general, so this video is a very big challenge for me. But I did want to say that recently I've been seeing this Christian romance book on the internet. I feel like it's been popping up everywhere for me. It has this bright like neon pink cover and it always catches my eye, and it's also by an author I've never heard of before, but when I look up anything about it, it seems super interesting. It's actually a romantic comedy, which interests me a lot because I feel like that's going to get rid of a lot of the unnecessary drama. So I'm gonna look for it next time I go to the bookstore, and I really hope I can find it because I would love to read this book. I am well past the halfway mark in The Masterpiece now. I've been reading a ton this morning. I like that the story is just as much about their own personal growth and the things that they're going through and overcoming and stuff as much as it is about the romance. Like, I like how there's more to this book than just the romance. I'm also seeing a lot of Christian themes playing throughout this book. The guy isn't a Christian at all, and he's like kind of being exposed to God and Christianity in like some of the most intense ways. As far as just the romance goes, it's hard to say. It's like, for a romance book, it's good, but I'd much rather be reading a mystery thriller. Yeah, it's just hard to say. I don't really know, but overall I am still enjoying the book. Alright, my goals for today are, number 1, finish The Masterpiece. I read a lot last night and I only have about 50 pages left, so I'm going to finish that today. And then after that, I want to go to Barnes & Noble and try and find this pink book that I've been seeing everywhere and I really want to read. The more I think about this book, the more I feel like I'm going to enjoy it better than any other romance for a lot of different reasons that I'll explain. So I'm going to go to Barnes and try and find that and then start reading my next book. I have finished The Masterpiece. It took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take, but I'm done now. I'm going to do just like a quick final review of this book because I feel like I've already said a lot of my opinions on this. I wanted to first say that I know Francine Rivers is a great writer because I'm usually just really impressed by the depth of her characters. There were some crazy things that happened with the guy in this book and crazy things that made him come to like Christianity, and it was just kind of cool to see his progression from the beginning to the end because he's kind of like a totally different person by the end of the book. That being said, I'm just not a romance lover. I feel like I liked so much around this book other than the main part, which was the romance. I just didn't really care that much, and I know that that's like not what most people feel when they read this book. I've heard so many good reviews on this, so many people have recommended it to me, but I just wasn't that into it. I don't know why. I just didn't care that much. I think I'm going to be giving this book a 3.5 stars on Goodreads. Don't hate me if you love this book. I just feel like it's a 3.5 stars. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now time to go to the bookstore to get the book I'm super excited about. Once I got to the bookstore, I browsed around for like forever trying to find this book. I checked in the Christian fiction section and the romance section, and they just didn't have it. And then after checking on my phone, I found out that it wasn't in stock. But before I was done shopping, I found another book that caught my eye and I ended up buying it instead. So I'm back from Barnes. I looked for a long time. Apparently this book is not as popular as I thought it was because they didn't even have it in store. So I came home and promptly went and ordered it off of Amazon. But I did find a good romance book that I'm gonna read in the meantime, which is called Lowcountry Lost. This book is by T.I. Lowe. I read another one of her books called Indigo Isle, and I actually really did enjoy it, and I think that one was technically a romance too, I'm pretty sure. And so I saw this one, I read the synopsis. I know this is a good author, so I decided to get it and try it out. It's about a girl who likes to flip houses in towns, like she's a renovator or something, and I think during this book she finds an old abandoned town and she tries to like flip it and make it livable again or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, and there's some kind of romance tied into that. So I'm gonna start reading this one today, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I really like this one because again, I really want to find a good romance book that I genuinely love and I can like actually highly recommend to you all. So I've been reading a ton of this book over the past couple of days. I haven't said too much about it yet because I have some conflicting opinions and I wanted to read more to try and like figure out exactly how I felt about it before I said anything. I will say that I do like the Christian aspect of this book. As far as the story goes, I can't say that I'm the most interested in this book, to be honest. I'm halfway through now and not too much has happened other than like a dramatic conversation between the main girl and the main guy, and then she goes and works on the town, and then another dramatic conversation, and then she goes and works on the town. Maybe that's a bit harsh. There is another character, this younger like kid. He seems interesting to me. Like I feel like there's gonna be a bigger story with him, but other than that, I'm a little bit bored. I think the biggest thing about this book that I didn't really like were the cringy moments I kept coming across within the romance, but even though I wasn't the biggest fan, I kept reading until something super exciting came in the mail. The book that I ordered just arrived in the mail and I'm so excited to start it. It looks so pretty and fun and I can't wait to start that one, but first I gotta finish Lowcountry. This book hasn't gotten too much better from the last time I talked about it. I think I've just decided it's not really my book, my preference, but regardless, I'm going to finish it maybe today. I don't know. I'm gonna try. Finishing the second half of this book ended up taking a little longer than expected. I just kind of slowly read it over the next few days, and then after a while I did eventually finish it. Alright, so I have finished Lowcountry Lost. Now it took me a lot longer than I was expecting it to. As I was getting towards the end of this book, I was thinking really hard about what I would possibly want to rate it out of 5 stars. I was also just thinking about what my final review of this book would be, and I'm struggling so much to decide what I want to say about it just because there are some things in the ending that I feel like I still need to process and just decide how exactly I feel about it and then come up with some kind of rating. So I'm gonna just hold off on this for now, but that means that I can go ahead and start my next book. Okay, it's finally time for me to read the book that I've been super excited about this whole time. It is called Authentically Izzy by Pepper Basham. Basically, from what I can grasp based on the synopsis, I think the whole book is in letters back and forth between the main girl and the guy, and I even think between some of her cousins. And I don't know, just something about it seems so fun and lighthearted. It's actually a rom-com, which is different from the other two books I read. Hopefully this is exactly what I'm looking for. We'll see. I'm gonna start reading today. Okay, so just my first initial thoughts. I'm only a few chapters in, but it's actually super funny and it's making me smile a lot. And then also there's so many book references. The main girl is a big book lover and she references books like all the time in the most perfect ways, and it's really fun to try and catch all of them and like see if I understand the references or not. So I'm having a fun time thus far. So over the next few days, I read more and more of this book. I was genuinely enjoying my time reading so much, and it made me just happy reading it, which is the feeling I want to have when reading a good romance book. It's not like depressing or brings you down. Instead, it's just fun and there's a lot to the story other than the romance, and I was just having a really good time. Thus far, the main two characters, the love interests, are emailing back and forth, but they haven't met up in person yet, but they do have so much in common and they get along so well through email. So I'm really excited to see what happens when they eventually see each other in real life. One thing I really love is that one of the cousins, she's kind of younger and she has a really funny personality. She'll also just throw in these great one-liners about God. I want to try and find one to read. So this girl is talking to the main character and she says, "Why are we always so surprised when God gives us something we've been praying for? It's like we don't believe he's actually listening." And like, if you know her personality, it's said in such a funny way. And I feel like I've never really seen Christianity put into a book in a way that's just funny and charming, and it suits the book so well. It doesn't take away from the story at all. Anyway, I'm just enjoying this book so far, and I'm gonna keep reading throughout the rest of today. So I just finished Authentically Izzy, and as you can probably tell, I really liked this book. There was a little bit of craziness towards the end, but I think it had a nice ending and everything wrapped up really nicely. I think my favorite parts about this book was how funny it was and how cool the format was, how it was all like in letters, or mostly in letters. I also really like how God and Christianity was interwoven into this in a really natural, normal way. So because of all this, I think I'm gonna give it a 4, maybe a 4.5 stars. And I would also highly recommend this book. I'm so happy I found one that I actually genuinely enjoyed. But as for Lowcountry Lost, I've yet to do a final review of this one. There were parts of it I really enjoyed, and then especially at the ending, there was a whole theme about God like reconstructing the main character and all he did to kind of transform and change her life throughout the story, which I thought was pretty cool. But other than that, it was a little cheesy, and I also just wasn't super into the story. Because of that, I think I'm gonna give this book a 3 stars. Like I said before, I think the common expectation is that when you combine Christianity and romance books, the automatic result is going to be that it's really cringy. And even though it might be harder to find a good one in this genre, at least for my personal book taste, doing all this proved to me that it's not impossible. And it's given me so much more hope for this genre, because even though a couple of these books weren't my absolute favorite, the Christianity parts of the books isn't what made them bad to me. So I'm really excited to keep trying more books out like these in the future.